Greetings and welcome to the channel. My name is Dr. Gyesie, shamanic leadership guide and your transformational coach, where we help people understand the traumatic roots of their limiting self-beliefs so they can overcome them, take inspired action to live resonant lives right here. Today we're going to be talking about the hidden power of the human heart, how it helps you heal your trauma, whether it was narcissistic abuse and otherwise, and awaken your spiritual superpowers. So let's get into it. What are we talking about? So yes, your heart is a physical organ in your chest, yes, but it's actually more powerful than the frequencies from your brain. And it's important to recognize that what I'm sharing with you is not just poetic, but it's scientific. It's rooted in neurology, in energy, and spiritual gnosis. So it's important to realize that when you think of trauma, you realize that your trauma isn't just about thinking differently, but it's also about feeling, vibrating, and living from the heart center. So we're going deep into the power of the human heart, into the truths that modern science is just beginning to uncover, but ancient traditions have known for eons. And what we're going to break down is how you can heal trauma at the cellular and energetic level, break you free from narcissistic and generational toxicity, and activate your own superhuman awareness like intuition, energy healing, and importantly, timeline shifts. So there's no fluff here, there's no performative self-care, just truth backed by neuroscience, ancient knowledge, and soul remembrance. So let's talk about the heart. The heart is not a pump. What it is a frequency generator, you see. And this is different from a mainstream narrative. And specifically, I like to reference the work of the Heart Math Institute, where they've done decades of peer-reviewed research, right? Scientific research that proves that the heart is the most powerful electromagnetic generator in the body. In fact, it produces an electric field 60 times greater than the brain, and a magnetic field 5,000 times stronger than the brain's magnetic field, according to the Heart Math Institute. And here's where it gets even more wild. This magnetic field forms a torus, sort of a self-sustaining donut-shaped energy system, also found around planets, black holes, and galaxies. And this torus that the heart creates allows energy to flow out from the heart and back in a continuous feedback loop. And in metaphysical terms, this torus is your biofield or your auric field. It contains your emotions, your traumas, your memories, your intentions, your ancestral codes, and your own spiritual imprints. And when your heart field is coherent, your energy is aligned. When it's incoherent, you feel disoriented, fatigued, or emotionally hijacked. This is why when someone walks into a room with tension or joy, you feel it, not through their words, but through their field. And empaths, survivors of narcissistic abuse, and spiritually sensitive beings often absorb or mirror these fields. And it's not weakness, it's actually hyper-attunement. But the heart isn't protected or healed. If it isn't protected or healed, it can become a sponge rather than a shield. So how does the heart think, feel, and know? What's the neurocardiology around this? Modern science is, the modern heart also is catching up to what mystics have always said, which is the heart is intelligent. The heart is intelligent. So from a neurocardio perspective, neurocardiology focuses on the study of the interaction between the heart and the mind. And in that, from research in neurocardiology, it's been discovered that there are over 40,000 sensory neurons capable of memory, learning, and decision-making, right? The heart. And it has its own intrinsic nervous system, sometimes referred to as a heart brain. And I bet you didn't realize that. And this system sends more information to the brain than it receives from it. In other words, your heart is constantly influencing your thoughts, your perception, your emotional regulation, and your sense of safety and threat. Simply put, the heart sends messages to the brain. It doesn't need that much from the brain. That's how powerful, and in my own words, superior the heart is to the brain. This information I've just shared to you is actually very crucial for trauma survivors, because your trauma didn't just happen in your mind. It's coded in your cardiac nervous system. So if you've ever felt a heartache, if your chest was tightening when you see the people who hurt you, your abuser, your bullies, that's not your imagination. That's your heart brain sending an alert based on stored memory. This is why talk therapy alone can't reach these levels. You have to engage in the somatic and energetic system of the heart to fully reset the trauma imprint, you see. So we're going now into the heart as was viewed in ancient wisdom, or as a portal of divine consciousness, you see. The heart has been venerated across time, not as a vital organ, but as the spiritual seat of the soul. The heart is the spiritual seat of the soul. And in ancient Egypt, the heart, or the ib, was considered the container of a person's truth. And at death, the heart was weighed against the feather of Ma'at, which is Ma'at means the cosmic principle of truth and justice. And if your heart was heavier than the feather, you were devoured by Amit, or the spirits who dealt with that. And you didn't therefore enter the afterlife. Similarly, in Christian mysticism, the Sacred Heart of Christ is the image of divine love and compassion that burns away sin. And you realize it's not just iconography, it's the mystical key to inner alchemy. Then in Islam and Sufism, the heart of the qalb is the mirror of God's light. But it must be polished from the rust of ego, fear, and hatred. And in Hinduism, and as well as in Buddhism, there's this notion of the Anahata chakra, which is particularly in Hinduism, in the heart space. And Anahata means the unstruck sound, the primordial vibration of the universe in Advaita Vedanta. And the heart is where duality ends and non-duality begins, or oneness begins. So you realize that the message is universal. The heart is where the divine enters human consciousness. It's the organ of awakening. In other words, you cannot apprehend the divine with a conditioned mind. The divine can only be apprehended with the open heart. You see? A heart that has no conditioning. Because how can you see the conditionless with conditions? Impossible. So let's go into the frequency of love and trauma as it relates to everything we're talking about here. Science proves that when your heart enters coherence, something Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about a lot, your physiology shifts. In other words, cortisol, which is a stress hormone, decreases, right? The DHEA, the aging hormone, also decreases. You have better immune system functions. You have decreased blood pressure and inflammation reduction. You have better cognitive clarity. And even more remarkably, heart coherence has been shown to influence your own genes expression. That's epigenetics in action, you see? So you are not a slave to inherited trauma or predisposed to this. When the heart is activated, you shift the signal your body sends to your genes. And if any of this resonates with you, type transform in the comment section if it can be of help to you. Let us know what your experiences has been. So you realize that the heart's magnetic field is strongest when in gratitude, love, and compassion. This isn't woo-woo, this is physics. And this is where trauma meets transformation. Realizing that love is not a feeling, it's a frequency. Something that can reverse trauma imprints in the nervous system. This is why narcissists hate coherence. It's why toxic systems target empaths, because coherence makes you sovereign. And a sovereign empath is a threat to control systems. So, what are the spiritual powers that are activated through the heart? Well, firstly, let's break the illusions. Your pain from narcissistic abuse or otherwise didn't destroy you, it prepared you. Because as you heal the heart, it unlocks abilities that were always there but were buried under pain. And some of these abilities are things like clear cognizance, the ability to know what's true without needing logic, clairsentience, the ability to feel other people's energy and know how to respond without analysis. There's also precognition or synchronicity activation, which is a situation where the more coherent your heart, the more the universe speaks back to you. Then there's telepathic resonance. You begin to feel connected to loved ones across space and time. And energetic boundary mastery, where you no longer absorb toxic fields, you transmute them. This is how trauma becomes initiation. This is how the empath becomes an oracle, where the wound becomes the weapon and survival becomes sovereignty. You see? So, in conclusion, the most powerful battlefield isn't your mind, it's your heart. And when your heart breaks, it doesn't mean you're weak. It means your spiritual aperture is trying to open. And if you're an empath, a trauma survivor, or someone navigating narcissistic abuse, you're standing on the threshold. And the choice is clear. Numb out or ignite your heart field and rise. You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to magnetize transformation through your heart. If this activated something in you, subscribe, comment, and share. And know that you're not alone. We're here to help you. And your heart is about getting back to the old you, the true you. This is about ascending to your coded self, the one who was never broken, only buried. Where your trauma ends is where your sovereignty begins. Recognize there's no one like you. See you around next time. Peace and light.